Okay. Hello. Welcome to this episode of The Unconditioned Life. This is Linda Downey, and I'll say a little bit more about myself and this podcast in a second, but I just want to say hello to Claudine Francois and welcome you, Claudine, to this episode. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me. This is so exciting.
It's fun. It's a lot of fun to speak with different people who have different expertise and background in different areas. And so if you're joining as we start to talk, or if you catch this replay later, my name is Linda Downey. I'm also an FDN, as is Claudine. An FDN is Functional Diagnostic Nutrition Practitioner. And we are here to talk about some issues that maybe you have noticed in your life, and we'll get into that in just a moment. This podcast is called The Unconditioned Life, and it's really about recognizing and becoming aware of and conscious of the conditioning that we all have and experience right from the moment we're born, sometimes even before we're born. It gets started, and then our lives are lived as a reaction to that conditioning or as a construct of that conditioning. And what would be possible if you could actually decondition or uncondition yourself. So that's the podcast. Claudine, I'm going to let you introduce yourself a little in just a second and say a little more about you. But what I want to acknowledge is when I created this, Claudine Francois, did I say the last name correctly?
You did, yes.
It's a lovely name, very French sounding, and I don't speak French, so I was hoping I did it right, but I spelled it wrong. So I put an E at the end when I created this event. So if you're seeing this or you're reading the description and you want to find Claudine later, just leave the E off. Is that correct?
The E off my last name, yes. There's still an E on my first name.
Okay, great. So Claudine, if you would just say a little bit about yourself and your background, and then we'll dive into this topic.
Absolutely. Well, as you said, I'm a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, or I just say I do functional medicine to make it easier for people. And for people who don't know what that is, functional medicine is about getting to the root cause of chronic issues, right? So I work specifically with women, and I help women get to the root cause of their chronic issues, because oftentimes, and we'll probably talk about this quite a bit, oftentimes women are going to the doctor over and over and over again, and they're not getting the relief that they want, because the way traditional medicine works is they are designed to do a Band-Aids. Oh, you have this symptom, let's Band-Aid it with a prescription. Oh, you have this symptom pop up because of that, let's Band-Aid it with another prescription. So instead of just constantly having all these layers and layers of Band-Aids, you end up looking like a mummy. We get to the root cause and try to figure out why are all of these things happening, so we can correct it from that root cause perspective.
Yeah. Traditional medicine or conventional medicine, however you want to talk about it, is the way that we've been conditioned to think of healthcare, but it's really more like symptom management. And let me say, as someone who, my daughter had really catastrophic medical issues, and I love the hospital and the doctors, and there are some really amazing things that they do and can do. And I think that especially in an acute situation, someone needs surgery or something, it's really, really wonderful. And there's a place where there's a big missing. There's really a gap around for wellness care and for unraveling the root cause of these symptoms, which is why I got into functional health as well many years ago, because of my own health issues. So I really experienced what we're going to talk about tonight, which was things like, I can't make it through the day. I'm exhausted. I can't hold my head up, but my blood work looks pretty normal. At first, it looked normal. Eventually, there was definitely thyroid issues going on. So then that did show up in the blood work. But, I think that a lot of the women, and I want to hear your perspective on this, have either had that, like everything looks normal, or they've been told, it's in your head. And there is a component to how we think and feel in our physical health. So I actually understand. Well, that's not exactly what they meant when they say it's in your head, I don't think. But anyway, what's your perspective and what's your experience been, Claudine?
Yeah, I would say both of those things. I see that a lot in clients that I have, where it's either you're not experiencing what you're experiencing. That's the
Right,
gaslighting portion of it, right? You're telling
right.
me that you are exhausted all the time, that you're fatigued, that you're sleeping. You feel like you need to sleep at every given moment. You have headaches or brain fog. Well, you're just getting older, or it's just in your head, or maybe you just I've heard all kinds of crazy things like maybe you just need to work out more. Maybe you just need to have sex more, and that will increase your libido. Maybe you just need to, all of these crazy things that are just not getting to why this person feels this way.
Yeah.
And it can actually, to your point about your blood work was normal at first, that is normal in the perspective of the doctors are looking at this huge range
Hmm.
because they are looking to get to a diagnosis. I don't want to say they're waiting for us to be in a disease state, but that's where they shine. They shine, like you said, in the acute issue where, oh, I can do a surgery, or there's a major issue that I can deal with. That is what they're great at.
Right.
Yet there's, as you alluded to, there's this middle ground where you're not quite showing up as abnormal on the blood work, but you're starting to feel awful. And that is what I call the sweet spot, or the window of opportunity, where in functional medicine, we can help someone reverse their symptoms and feel better before it gets to be a full-blown diagnosis.
Yeah. I love how you put that. It's the sweet spot of where if you take action now and we start to really put things in place, it'll be much easier to unravel. It'll go faster, and all of that. And I thought of something as you were talking. Oh, and the other thing is weight, which maybe some people don't think of as a health issue, but they're unhappy with their weight and have been told, and I've had clients been told by their doctor, it's calories in, calories out. Stop putting certain food in your mouth, or exercise more. And they kill themselves exercising, like really do a ton of exercise. And they really eat very minimally. Their caloric intake is not high. And that's really frustrating too. So I want to group weight in with this conversation as well, even if you're not thinking, well, weight equals health. It is a physical response of your body. That's how I see it.
Absolutely. And I had a client with that exact same scenario where her blood pressure was high, her weight was going up, and her cholesterol was going up. And the doctors kept telling her, well, you just need to work out more and eat less. And she was working out like crazy. She was eating, very healthy. And it was to the point where she didn't know how to cut any more calories. And when we ran her stress and hormone panel, she was in the exhaustive phase. Her body was
Right.
tapped out, and her doctor saying, well, you need to work out more. Her body really her body could not handle anymore. And so
Right.
that, because they aren't looking at the root cause, they aren't seeing that. It's hi.
That was the dog. She just
little
choked on
friend.
her bone. Sorry.
Oh.
I'm hoping that's the end of it. We'll see.
Oh, well, luckily my cat's in the other room. We won't have anyone back and forth
No.
there.
Yeah. And like you said, when you look and you see that the adrenals are actually maxed out, and you can tell that by the panel that you spoke of, and the body is really in a stressed state. Exercise is stress. So exercising more, if you can't handle more stress, exercising more is going to really work against you. And in fact, the amount of exercise you've been doing might be part of the problem.
Exactly. Yeah, it's actually making it worse, making her symptoms worse, making her situation worse. So that kind of handling of the situation, it just frustrates me. And it frustrates the women who are receiving it too, because they don't even know that that's bad advice. They think that makes sense. It's what I've heard, and it's to your point of unconditioning.
Right. And making them feel bad. That's what gaslighting is, right? When we talk about gaslighting in a relationship, it's when you're told what you're experiencing is not the truth. You're kind of made to feel like maybe I'm crazy, or, you know, people take your words and twist them. So I'm not saying that the doctors do that, but the experience that you're left with is very similar in that I'm feeling like I'm crazy, but I know that experiencing this. So mostly because the dog is walking around all the time, I want to make sure I get everything in that you want to say about that and the work that you do with people.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's the everything's normal technique, or it's not technique, but the conversation that they have with the doctors. I mean, what I love, and you've probably, as a functional medicine practitioner, done this too, where we look at the labs through a different lens. So when we look at even the same blood labs that the doctors are looking at, you know, their range is huge because it is the average of all of the sick people who've taken that test. It's not a measure of where do you want to be. It's literally just an average of everyone who's taken it, and it's different depending on the lab. And in functional medicine, we have this much smaller window, right? This is the ideal. This is where you feel best. This is where you want to be window. And so, as I mentioned earlier, when we're between that, the functional medicine window, but before you get to the diagnosable stage, that is where we can do, I don't want to call it magic, but it feels like magic if you've been someone who's been struggling with things for many years, right? Where we start to look at what are the underlying causes, what's going on. I call it under the hood. You know, let's peek under the hood and see what's happening. Because as a person who, I mean, I was in corporate America for 25 years, right? I call it, I was killing myself from the inside out in corporate with the stress, with ignoring my body's warning signs, right? Because we tend to get warning signs. Our body tends to give us this little, like, kind of like the warning sign, the signs on your car, you know, like the oil light goes on, or the check engine light goes on. So we get those warning signs in our bodies, but we tend to ignore them because we want to get through. We have to push through. We have to do all the things. And, you know, the women that I work with are all driven women who just, you know, they do all the things for all the people. They are known for getting things done. They are not the kind of person to just sit around and be like, well, I guess I can't work today. They're not like, no, this has to get done and I have to do it. So we tend to ignore those symptoms. And then, of course, much like the warning lights on your car, if you ignore the check engine light, it doesn't just go away. It doesn't magically get better. It tends to get worse. And that tends to be where, when women come to me, is at that point where it gets worse, because they have been to their doctor and they've had those labs. Now, one of the things I love to do a free lab review with people to look at those labs and tell them, okay, your doctor told you these were all normal. And you alluded to a great example earlier, which is thyroid. So I love it when I get a thyroid panel. Now, most doctors will not run a full thyroid panel unless pressed. And maybe even then not, because they usually just run the TSH. They usually only run that one marker. But if you can get even a 4-marker panel, or get an 8-marker panel, we're really in business. You can really see where is, the thyroid doesn't just wake up one day and decide, I'm not feeling it. I need a me day. I don't want to work today, right? It doesn't just do that. So if you can really see where the breakdown is occurring, if you can see where is it that the thyroid isn't producing enough hormone? Is it that it's not converting to the active form? Are there some gut issues that are preventing the transference from happening? Is it a calcium shell? There could be so many reasons why the thyroid isn't getting into the cell, isn't functioning properly. And really getting to the root of that and figuring it out is just amazing. And so when I go through these labs with people, with women, and I show them, okay, your doctor said this was normal, but here are all the little clues that we're finding in your blood labs. And I equate it to clues or like pieces of a puzzle, right? So we can look at the big picture versus, a traditional doctor is going to be like, all right, this is my piece. I'm a heart surgeon. I only look at the heart. I don't want to see any other part of the body. I'm not interested in any other part of the body. Nobody gets to look at my piece. This is my piece. The opposite is true with functional medicine. We want to see all the pieces. We want as many clues as we can get so we can get that big picture of what is happening. Because, it's not like the thyroid works in a vacuum, to continue with our example. There's something else causing it to try to do this workaround. And try to make things happen.
Yep. And there were two things when you were talking about that I thought of. One is, as you said, when they look at labs, there's a huge span or window from a conventional point of view, and the functional viewpoint is much more narrow, because they're really saying this is what it should be for optimal health. The wider range is based on the population. And honestly, if you look around at the population, most people are not healthy by a long stretch. Most people, visually don't look healthy. They don't have energy. Many people, by the time they're in their 40s, are taking a couple of different prescriptions. So when you're basing your labs on, well, this is the normal population, that's a very different perspective than this is what a human being is designed to operate like or as. This is what we're capable of, and this is how, a body would look blood wise, physically, when you look at them, when they're functioning optimally. So it's an optimal perspective versus this is what we see normally in this culture with the food that we eat, etc. So that was one thing. What was the other thing? Oh, when you said, usually the body starts to tell you, it definitely does until it's screaming at you. But then here's the other thing. And for folks listening who have autoimmune, when you just address it with something to manage the symptoms, most likely, like, I don't know what the percentage is, I'm going to say 90%, you're going to get another autoimmune condition down the road. I can't promise that, but as someone who had 4 autoimmune conditions diagnosed, starting in my 20s, it took 20 years for each one, but I just kept, and I was a health professional, like, okay, I went to the doctors, I did the things. But that's what's going to happen. And now you've got multiple issues to unravel rather than just the one, because the body's saying, hello, you're still not listening. So, having this perspective and having someone like Claudine work with you on that is so important. I sort of shifted my focus and what I do with women, which is purely the stress, just stress, because bottom line, if you can't alleviate your stress, either the stress that's in your life right now, like on a daily basis, or the stress that you've held and carried throughout your lifetime, a stressed nervous system, then all the other pieces are going to be really hampered. So I really focus on that. But Claudine does everything that you just said, right? The lab work and putting all of those pieces together with the blood and all of that. So that's really, really important.
Well, they're
Claudine,
both so key to overall health. You really
yes,
can't
they
have
are.
one without the other. And I think I told you previously when we spoke that I had to go through my health journey twice because I hadn't healed those underlying issues. I hadn't healed my tendencies, they were subconscious. What was pushing
Yes,
me to the brink every time? And until I
yes,
fixed that, I couldn't physically heal anyway. I would just get right
yes.
back to the same spot.
Exactly. That's why I do that part now, just focus on that piece, because that was me too. There were driven subconscious tendencies to overwork. I used to pride myself, I worked in my 20s, going through college and graduate school, working 4 jobs. And if I had a window on a Sunday afternoon that was open for 3 hours and you said to me, can you do this for me? I'd go, yeah, I can do that. Or maybe I could actually find another part-time job on Sunday afternoons. Like, I thrived on that, thinking I had to do it that way, thinking that I was earning a badge of honor and look at me and what I can handle. And then I just kept getting sicker and sicker and sicker. But those are the subconscious beliefs that have us make the choices that show up in our relationships and how we work and all those things. So yes, you're right. It is both. And it's so interesting that you said, like, how you said it, I loved, was like, I almost had to do my healing twice, because you have to go back and really look at that. That's what happened to me. I was like, okay, did all the things. Where's the one last piece I haven't looked at? And that was it.
Mm-hmm.
So, Claudine, if people wanted to work with you, if people are like, I really need to have that perspective, what are some ways that they can do that? What are the ways that you work with people?
Well, right now I have both one-on-one and group coaching options, which makes it,
Okay.
some people prefer the one-on-one experience and some people prefer the lower price point of a group. Plus you get the energy of the other people in the group and you get to learn from them as well. So there are both of those. Plus I have a free Facebook group. So if someone's
Yes.
like, okay, she sounds cool, but like, I don't really know her, then they can always join the free Facebook group. We do free trainings. I actually do lab reviews in there once a month, which is super fun for everybody. So they are more than welcome to join us there.
So I just posted the Facebook group, Free Radiant Living. So that's pretty cool. And then this is in good W. Oh, this is your website, www, right?
Mm-hmm. In good, clean taste.
In good, clean taste. I was like, oh, the www, that's a website between social media, like the at, and then the, I'm like, okay, wait, what am I giving this? Okay. So that's the website. And then anywhere on social media is at in good, clean taste, which I love that name. So you do a lot with food and making food taste good.
Yes, I grew up, I'm half Polish and our job is to feed the world. So I grew up every holiday, anytime someone comes over, it's like flour, butter, sugar, right? Like we're making everything from scratch. And when I had to go gluten-free and dairy-free, it was like, what in the world am I going to make? So I spent, this is, before you could find everything gluten-free, dairy-free on the internet. I spent about 5 years perfecting all my recipes because I was like, I am not going to not eat. I'm not going to not have holidays. I'm not going to not have birthdays. And so, yeah, that's where I started. I started off just making things that were healthy and delicious, which is similar to my podcast, Healthy, Delicious Lifestyle. Just because I wanted to be able to enjoy food still, even though I was going to be eating healthy, I wanted it to also be delicious.
Yeah, which actually also suits this podcast of the unconditioned life, because I think that if you in any area, when you can see there's a different way, I can actually decondition myself. And that's what you did. You took your Polish heritage of, what'd you say, flour, butter, sugar, which is hysterical.
Yes.
That's true, right? So I took
Yep.
the flour, butter, sugar conditioning and I unconditioned myself that it has to look like this and I can still eat well. It can still taste delicious. All of those things. So that's very exciting that you do that, help people revamp their food and their recipes, because that's very different than saying, okay, you can't eat this, this, and this. Good luck. When I see you next time, let me know how it's been going. But it sounds like you really work with them on that.
Yeah, exactly. I don't like being told I can't have. I want to be told, but you can have this thing. And this is amazing.
Yeah.
You're going to love it. So
yeah. That's really great. Well, is there anything else that you wanted to say before we sent people on their way and have them head over to your website or your Facebook group?
Well, I think I'd like to say, trust your intuition. If you are feeling that if you're going to somebody and they are telling you a story that you do not feel deep down in your soul, the opposite is true. Trust your intuition. You know your body better than anybody else. Get a second opinion, get 100 second opinions until you find someone who really understands what you're going through.
Yeah.
Because there is no reason you need to suffer. And even if you have a diagnosis, it is not a sentence. Right? You do not have to, as you mentioned, you had 4 autoimmune diseases diagnosed. That is not a sentence. Those things can be either managed and sometimes reversed. So
Absolutely.
You can definitely work through those things. You do not have to accept what you're being told. You do not have to accept feeling awful all the time. You can feel fabulous again.
Absolutely, you can. I'm here to tell you. And I love that that's the parting thought of trust your intuition, because in the work that I do, a lot of people, because of the conditioning in their house, when they were young, learn to shut down their intuition and not pay attention to their gut feelings because it wasn't acknowledged. It was more important to keep other people happy. So what they were feeling in themselves, you know, if you're a 7-year-old and you can tell something's not right in the house, but you're not allowed to say anything, you start to separate from your intuition and you start to not trust it, which is how you line yourself up for gaslighting anywhere in your life. And that's one of the things we really work on bringing yourself back to you so that you can trust you and your intuition. So whether it's anywhere else, but especially in your medical conversations and your health, it's so important. So we'll leave you with that thought because it's a really good one. And thank you so much. And thank you for helping me navigate right through the dog just doing her thing, because it was a little doggy there for a couple of minutes, but she settled down. So thank you all. And well, I wish you a great good night, and maybe we'll have another chat another time. Thanks, everybody. Make sure you leave your comments and your questions, and I will make sure wherever this is streaming for me that Claudine gets them. You know, anything I will send her way because this is in multiple places. Okay. All right. Ciao.
Thank you.